Hello everybody, today this is tutorial 4 and we will be going to C programming. So we've done some assembly language, so by now hopefully you should sort of get a sense of what the stack is, what registers are, how instructions work, and a few of those kind of things. And we'll just jump into C language. As we get further into C language, we can then later move back into assembly language to cover some more complex things in assembly language that we'll only understand once we have a basic sense of C or just low-level programming. Alright, let's get started. So for this, let me go into my documents, tutorials, type 5, or tutorial 4, sorry. Tutorial 4, let me go into it. Alright, so for this you can use any operating system. You'll need to have a compiler installed. So let's say you're working on Windows, then you can simply just use Visual Studio, or you can install Ming WC, I believe it's called, and compile your C programs from there. Or you can even install the Windows subsystem for Linux and use Linux to compile your programs. That doesn't matter. For Mac OS, you'll need to install GCC or Clang, which should come with your computer. In my case, I'm gonna use GCC, Global C Compiler, I think it stands for. And yeah, let's get started. So let's first of all create a new file. So I'm gonna use a simple text editor, nothing fancy here, right? So let me just slightly zoom out. So first, you want to include the standard library. Now, this just includes all basic functions, such as if you want to print something, if you want to do any of those stuff. So let me first create an int main. Now, this int main tells the program where you want to actually run all your code. So you run all of your code in here, and this is like where you put all your code to run, and this is the part where the computer looks into to look for code to actually run. So first of all, let me quickly just write this stuff, and I'll explain what it means in just a second. Alright, printf. So this is sort of C's print operator. So it prints, and inside that I'm putting a sequence of characters of hello world, and then a new line at the end, because printf doesn't automatically print a new line. You have to specify that. So I'm doing /n, specify that, and then after that I'm going to return with 0. Now, return with 0 is that one thing I was talking about in assembly language, where I exited the program with different error codes. In the same way, you have to exit the program in C with a different error code. So over here, if I put -1, it returns with the code -1. In my case, I'm going to return with 0 to show no error, everything's going perfectly fine. Alright, let's see how this goes. So first of all, I'll have to compile it, so gcc main.c. Alright, let it run. ls, there it is. Now I can run it, so /a.out, that's the executable it creates. Run it, and hello world. Alright, so let's look at what we actually wrote, shall we? Okay, so why did we call this an int? Well, so first we have to understand what a function is in C. So a function with no return parameter. So let's say void print hello, right? This is a function with no return parameter. So we just call it as a void, because simply it returns nothing. However, if you want a function to return an int value, you call it an int print hello, and then create it for a function and put it over here. Inside these brackets, you put in the argument. So let's say I want to have int x, int y, and let's call this add. Int add. So let's say this function adds two numbers, so return x plus y, right? Now a void function cannot return anything. Like, the point is that it returns nothing, it's just void. That's its type. An int function, since we specified at the start that it's int, it returns an integer. So it returns x plus y, which is another integer, and that's an int function. So let's say in print hello, we can simply do delete that and paste it here. So over here we can do print hello. That's it, right? And we pass in no arguments. Notice how this is empty as there. And nor do we assign this to a variable, because assign to a variable because we know that this is that it returns nothing, so there's no point checking its return value. On the other hand, let's say we add 10 comma 20. We should return 30, so we can do returned equals 30. So we returned equals to the return parameter of running this function. If you're familiar with any other programming languages, this shouldn't seem too crazy. Oh, also just remember, C is statically typed. That means you have to specify the typing of each of the variables. So you have to specify how this is an int. You have to, even for return, I have to specify that this is the type of an int. I can't just create a variable. And now once it's a type of an int, notice how I can't change it to like a string, like hello. Look, if I try running this, it's gonna give me an error. Oh, also in C you have to add a semicolon after every statement, just remember that. So look, this is gonna give me an error because I cannot assign an int to a sequence of characters. However, if I do like returned equals return plus 10, so simply adding 10, that would work just fine because I have to add a semicolon. Forgot that. But otherwise it would work just fine because I'm not changing its type, right? There we go. Works just fine. Yep, so that's like the absolute basics of the syntax of C. We'll get into more depth like for loops and selection, iteration in the next tutorial. Thank you.